Ms. McDaniel, would you lead us in the invocation, and Mr. Mayor, the pledge, please?
Heavenly Father, we ask for your wisdom this evening as we begin our meeting. We acknowledge that we need you and your wisdom and your insight, and we welcome your presence among us. Please guide us in our decisions and our discussions and help us seek what is best for all involved. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to have a moment. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Caroline, roll call, please.
Here. Mr. Fargo?
Here.
Ms. Wagner? Mrs. McDaniel?
Present?
Ms. Glenn?
Here.
Mr. Ring?
Here.
Mr. Mishniak?
Make a motion to excuse Ms. Wagner and Mr. Mishniak.
All those in favor for excusing Ms. Wagner and Mr. Mishniak? Any opposed? Them two will be excused. For disposition of minutes, Special Service Committee meeting of January 22nd, 2024.
Motion to accept as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Those are accepted. 5, old business. AT7612, amend code regarding nuisance properties, Mr. Bill Miller and Mr. Andre Nova.
I think we just needed to schedule another work session like we did the first one.
Okay.
I think Ms. McDaniel brought up a good point to me earlier. I feel like we got through that whole document. I don't think we missed anything, did
We
we?
had 1 page left. It was like,
We finished all of it because we were doing line by
I
line.
didn't think we did either, but I'm not
For
100%.
some reason, I felt like we did, but go ahead, Ms. McDaniel. You made the points.
Just wondering if we could have some of the revisions presented to us before the next work session. I can't recall either if we got all the way through or most of the way through, but if some of those revisions could be given to us, so while we're together for a work session again, once we get through it, we can go and see what changes were made and if there are any further tweaks, just for efficiency's sake.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Miller?
just want to add it to,
Mr. Chesnowski?
I just wanted to make a comment. I spoke with Andre, and we were looking at the calendar, knowing that council likes to meet on Mondays, and wondered if Monday, the 29th of July worked for everybody for a next work session. The 6 p.m. start was ideal. If we can do that, it would be helpful. It's just, I saw that it's a 5th Monday. I don't know that we want to meet on the same day as our regular, as our next regular meeting. So I'm just throwing out the 29th. I know that works well on Andre's schedule as well. He has also started talking with Paul. We have transmitted all of council's comments to Paul Janis, and he is working through those and starting to update the draft to reflect the comments received at the last work session. We will get those to council in advance of the work session so that you're very clear about what has been changed with enough time to digest it before the next work session.
All right, thank you. Would we like to wait for the other two members of council to be here before we select a date?
That would be you would have to wait till the 24th
Yeah, the 22nd.
or 22nd.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good the 29th.
Okay.
Fine, yeah, 29's good for me.
Okay.
If we could do the 6 p.m. start, again, it would be appreciated. If not, I understand. Just wanted to throw it out there.
well, make a motion to work session regarding T7612, the amend code regarding nuisance properties on July 29th at 6 p.m.
A second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none. Special work session 7/29/2024, 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6, new business. A, presentation regarding property assessments, Mr. Matt Kelly.
All right, thank you for having me. I appreciate a few minutes to speak. I will be brief per what the mayor said here a few minutes ago, but I think this is a very, very important thing to bring up. I've been trying to get out to most communities around Portage County, if not all. Spoke to most townships so far. I was in Brimfield Township last week. Went through the Aurora 4th of July parade here this Thursday, handing these informational flyers out, not campaign material, informational flyers. The auditor's office does a lot of things for Portage County, right? I think one of the most important things we're doing this year is property assessments. It's a sexennial assessment this year. It's a mandatory one per ORC, and it's a very concise evaluation or assessment of our parcels around Portage County, agricultural, residential, and commercial. We are just about done with that. That official valuation will get on to Columbus. They will do a few things with the numbers, send it back to us, and then there's a process to go through. At the end of the day, here late this year, early next year, we should get the official valuations on all of our parcels. This card that I'll hand out, or I'll hand to somebody that can hand it out to council, gives a kind of a high-level calendar. I'll get this more concise once Columbus comes back with some numbers and we have an idea better of some days and maybe some weeks for times. But basically, right now, July, August, when we get those numbers, preliminary numbers back from Columbus, we'll do revaluation notices sent to taxpayers. So here's your before, here's your after. Before was the last assessment, and here's what we came up with here in 2024. Now, the assessment in 24, taxes will be paid in 25. So pretty sure everybody here understands that. August and September, there'll be informal hearings. So if something doesn't seem quite right on the property assessment, there's a process to go through. We're going to do appointments so people aren't waiting in lines, but there's a process to go through to say, hey, my house doesn't have a pool, my house doesn't have a deck, and you said it did. Those are very few and far in between, but it's an informal process to be able to, kind of plead your case as to why your assessment might be a little bit off. October, December of this year, the final values are sent down to the state for approval and for tax rate calculation. So again, they put it through their calculator, and then that will come back to us, and we have a board of revision filing period to formally contest your new value. So that a little bit different from the informal valuation or the informal sessions. That is the official board of revision has said your parcel has been assessed at this, and that's what will go on for the next at least 3 years until we have a little bit of an abbreviated assessment here in 3 years. So every 3 years and every 6 years we do assessments. So again, I'm trying to get ahead of this so that the citizens of Portage County know what's coming. I'm estimating a property increase around the county at about 30 to 35%. Every county around us has been from at least 28 to 41% in some cases. Summit County right next to us was 31%. Now that is overall. Taxing districts could be a little bit different, so it does get complicated. When I say 30 to 35%, there could be some a little bit higher than that, some a little bit lower than that. It just depends on your tax district. And then there's a lot of other little variables that go in there too. So if you want to put a number on it, somewhere between 30 and 35%. Now the important thing with that is when I say that to citizens, they kind of get wide-eyed like, wow, my taxes are going to go up 30 to 35%. That's not the case. Your property value has increased by that much, but your taxes don't necessarily increase by that much. Probably about half that is a rule of thumb that I've heard from other auditors that they're communicating with their citizens of their county. So 30 to 35%, 15 to 16 to 17% increase on your taxes, on your property taxes. So I will say this, and then I'll take just a few questions, and I do want to hand these out to make sure you have information to give to the citizens that you want I'll say this, your house is probably, or at least for most of us, your biggest investment that you'll ever have in your life, right? So with that logic, you want it to be worth as much as it possibly can, right? And I think we are doing a very, very good job. We have a third party that does our assessments. They've been here longer than I've been in office, and I think they do a very, very good job. I've met them several times. Good guys, know what they're doing, and I have a very high level of confidence that they're evaluating our properties around Portage County very, very fair and very honest, okay? So when our property values come back, very confident in that number. Then you talk about how that number, what our parcel is assessed at, and how it's taxed. That's what needs to change. And what I've been telling citizens is to call our legislators down in Columbus to change the way we tax property owners. I know we have the homestead, discount, we have the CAUV, we have other, the homeowners credit, all those kind of things. They're okay. They take a little bit off, but not nearly enough. And there's different ways that we can bring in tax revenue instead of just hammering the property owner every single time. So property value is this. The issue we need to take care of as citizens, and these are important groups right here for sure, to call Columbus and say, we need to do something different on how we tax our property owners around Ohio. So please, if you have any questions, call the office. There's a lot of good links on here. You can find out what your tax estimator is on the auditor's website. You can find out if there's any levies on your particular ballot in your taxing district. You can find out how that's going to affect you if you vote for or against that levy. It'll give you a final calculator on all the levies that are on your specific ballot. So there's a lot of good information that I've added on these cards for you to inform your citizens of what's going on here in Portage County with property assessments. It's going to be a big deal. I expect to get a lot of phone calls. That's fine. That's what I signed up for. But I want to make sure people are clear on what's going on here in 2024 to take effect in 2025. All right. So that's what I have. Yes, Mayor.
Okay, you say the taxes are definitely going to go up. I can understand it on the inside millage, okay? But why would the taxes go up on the voted on levies?
Sometimes, well, it depends on the type of levy it is. Some of those levies, they won't go up.
The school levies, all the ones that we voted on, they should not go up.
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
We have a 0.8 mil safety levy. It should not go up. So realistically, though, right now we have an effective tax rate, I want to say somewhere around 72 mils. Mm-hmm. Okay, we have what, 15 mils? Is it 15 mils of inside levy or 20 mils of inside?
Probably 20. You're probably close to 20.
Okay, we get 5%, the county gets 15%. Mm-hmm. So I can see the taxes going up on that, okay? But that accounts for only basically 20 of the 72 mills. So 52 mills, we should not see an increase in taxes on those. In fact, a lot of people, or some people, that taxes should go down because the piece of the pie is getting bigger.
In some case, I know if you have a development and it starts to water down that taxing district, I can see that happening. It really does get down into the taxing district on what the effect is going to be on that particular group of people or whatever. So I can get you specific Streetsboro information so you can get it out.
I'd like to know, because I mean, when you're thinking about it, okay, we vote on a school levy. A school levy is for a specific millage. It can only generate that amount. Okay, and when people look at the tax tables, we have an effective rate and we have a voted on rate, okay? Because our tax base here in the city has increased dramatically, the people portion of the pie got smaller because there's more people paying into the pie. So why would our taxes necessarily go up on the voted levies, which besides the inside millage, those are the only ones we have. And we only have one that was voted on by the people in the city, and it was for 0.8 mils for X amount of years, designed to generate this much. So that 0.8 mils is off the table. But, I think when you say, the property values are going up about 30 to 35% and your taxes should go up 50% of that, I think that should be, I think that's a misnomer, especially for our people, because 52 mils of it is a set amount. It's only that inside millage that it can go up on.
Yeah, that's a very high level county-wide number that I've been communicating, that if we don't have the exact number, which we don't yet, if I'm going to say 30 to 35%, which I'm estimating based on the surrounding counties and what other auditors have said that they've been seeing as far as their exact tax rate, again, based on tax district, I'm using that half rule of thumb. Is that going to be, can I say 15% in all taxing districts in Streetsboro? You can't say that. Some are going to be a little bit lower. Some maybe just a little bit higher. I can't speak to Streetsboro exactly, but I certainly can put your numbers through like an estimated type thing with Beth Wagner in my office. She's excellent at this kind of stuff and give you a better idea, even better so when the numbers come back officially. So I want you to, and that's exactly why I'm here. So I want, especially you, Mayor and Council, I want you guys to have the information so you can talk talk to your citizens and let them know, here's what
I'm
to
just giving
expect.
them your numbers.
That's fine. And I signed up for that. That's fine. But I trying to get out to say, when I go to council meetings or I go to township meetings, I'd love to see 500 people there. I know that's probably not doable, but I want as many citizens as possible. Something's coming here, probably an increase in taxes somewhat, because the other thing is, once we get those numbers back, and okay, here in March or so of next year, we're starting to pay that first half taxes with the increase, whatever it may be. Going forth in that year, there's other levies that are going to come on that may be new levies, they may replacement levies, whatever they may be, that affect that also going forward. So there's a lot of moving parts, and it's one thing to say we need to change the way we tax our property owners in Ohio, especially Portage County, but let's make it a little bit simpler. Like, how can we bring in new tax revenue based on, you got legal marijuana now. You don't have to like it. We have legal marijuana. How do we take care of that? Sportsbook, sports gambling. How do we take care of that and use that tax revenue? You don't have to participate in it. Let's take advantage of it if it's legal. And then that goes to the schools and fire and police and parks and libraries and all the things that services we definitely need in our communities for sure. But let's not hammer the property owner every single time. So, Mayor, I'll talk to Beth tomorrow and get you some answer on those mills and stuff like that. I just wanted to come talk to council and say, hey, it's coming. Our property values are going to go up this year in the assessment, and we'll likely see a tax increase because of that in '25.
So right now, Matt, yeah, I got enough. Auditor Matt instead of finance Matt. Right now, one mill for the city of Streetsboro produces about $550,000. Is that right?
This is about 600,000.
Okay, it's about 600. So when we do this reassessment, that number, that 600,000, is actually going to increase, is it not?
Mm-hmm. Okay. On some levies it won't, some levies it will. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
That's why it gets complicated. So and I urge anybody to call my office and talk to myself and Beth Wagner. She's the expert. If we're thinking about a levy, to call her, and I'm sure you probably have talked to her many times, but she's very good about, hey, here's what you can expect type thing, and she gets information
out there. We're not thinking of a levy.
I've been asked that at other council and other township meetings for sure, that they're thinking about this or whatever, and Beth is the person to call and get very, very accurate, quick information. So again, I'll hand somebody these cards tonight. You can use them, but it's my website. My phone number's on here. We'll get you the information you need to be able to govern the citizens of Portage County the way we need to. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'll give you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Yeah, item A2, Mr. John Kennedy.
I just want to be very clear, Matt and I did not team up and organize this to have the county auditor along with the county treasurer. Good evening, everybody. I'm John Kennedy. I'm your relatively new Portage County treasurer since past November. So Mayor, members of Streetsboro City Council, since jumping on board this past year, I've learned a lot. I've learned a ton about the good work your county treasurer's office is doing all year round, not just at property tax collection time. What I've learned is that we are much more than simply the county's tax collector, which I will quickly note that by now you should have all received your second half bills, which I'll remind you are due on July 15th for real estate. Sorry about that. As you all are aware, tax collection is an extremely important county function. These tax dollars provide important local social services such as police, fire protection, roads, schools, parks, and libraries. We also collect revenues for the county itself, which provides services including emergency management, public assistance, criminal prosecutions, etc., etc. But one of the most important aspects of the job is being a good financial steward of the monies collected. As your chief investment officer for the county, we work diligently to be a good fiduciary steward of county funds, ensuring their safety, liquidity, and the best possible return. This role requires constant monitoring to maintain the county's investment portfolio. I sit on the county's Investment Advisory Committee, which holds the treasurer accountable for this work and requires the treasurer to provide financial data, forecasting, and interest yield information on a quarterly basis to make sure the county's investment goals are fully met. We just had a meeting about a week and a half ago. And with the local banks, I also work with local banks who hold millions of our assets, and I negotiate and I fight for the best rates we can get to ensure we get the best rate of return for our hardworking taxpayers. I also serve on several boards, including the Board of Revision, which Matt just alluded to, reviewing property valuation appeals from residents. I also sit on the Budget Commission, monitoring local subdivision budgets along with Matt. I sit on the Data Processing Board, reviewing technological policies and upgrades. Upgrades, I'll have you know, that could save millions of dollars for county taxpayers. And I also sit on the Portage County Land Bank, which is, by mission, it's about returning blighted and forfeited properties to functional use, which is a great return on investment, as it funds its entire operation on a small percentage of all delinquent taxes collected. I also sit on the board of the Portage County Community Action Council, which is led by David Shea. They receive grants and other funding that helps our residents who need assistance with things like utilities, rent, and homeowners assistance, and which is included in the past property tax assistance. Through the end of this past June, Community Action Council provided a total of $110,000 for property tax assistance alone. Since 2021, the Community Action Council has used a grant from the Ohio Housing Finance Agency to serve more than 360 families in Portage County, assisting 119 families with a total of $252,000 for property taxes. And Mr. Shea and I are working together to provide our staff with even more information that we can share with residents who are struggling to pay their property taxes. Simply put, we are not just tax collectors. We help connect folks to the people, programs, and resources they need as they navigate through a sometimes hectic and complicated life, especially those who need those connections and resources the most. My goal is to serve you, all of you, the residents of Streetsboro and all residents here in Portage County, by helping us collectively navigate and make the right connections along the way. We have great organizations and great people doing great work throughout our wonderful county. And my job is to help build those bridges that can move the needle ever so slightly forward. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Any questions for Mr. Kennedy? Anybody? Okay.
One thing I just did want to mention as well, we have a great low-interest loan program called Portage Grow Link, which is 1% to 3% below market rate in terms of interest rate. And hopefully the Fed will do its thing and lower the interest rates here shortly. They say sometime in September, look for a little bit of a reduction there. But homeowners can borrow up to $50,000. Small family farms can borrow $25,000. And if you want to get a small business loan, you can take up to $250,000 out. So it's a good deal. And if you need more information about that, I've got plenty of things. I'll leave this with you. Somebody up here will collect this. I'll leave these with you so you can share them. And I'll also leave my business card. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Item B, T7625 contract with Eastern Power Gas for natural gas aggregation. Mr. Tom Bellish, Mr. Glenn. Oh, is it Mary Glenn?
Glenn.
Oh, it's Miss Glenn?
Yeah.
Miss Mary Ann
We're not
Glenn.
married.
Councilwoman Bunn.
Yes, good evening. Tom Bellish, Buckeye Energy Brokers. I have some frequently asked questions to pass out if I could.
Sure.
So what I have here is one side is electric and then one side is natural gas. So just a quick update on the electric before we get into the natural gas, the agenda item. So we have a fixed price of 6.1 cents per kilowatt hour on the electric. This month, Ohio Edison announced their rate. It's 9.46 cents. So it's about a 35% discount from the Ohio Edison rate that the residents are getting right now. Now, on the natural gas side, so we have two offers from Eastern. We have the 12-month and the 24. The 12-month is $3.75, and the 24-month is $3.95. So those are the two options that we have here today. I think so on the legislation, at least last version I saw, we're trying to get something in 385 or less, maybe.
375.
375.
Yeah.
So we're not at that today, but we could do the 1 year at 375 is an option. So we can do that. So which is probably not a bad idea. Eastern was new. We worked with Constellation for about 20 years before they decided to exit the market. Constellation did a great job. And I think Eastern, we work with Eastern on 5 other cities now, and it's all worked well, but they are new. So residents, are accustomed to some very good customer service that they got from Constellation. So since they're new, maybe 12 months might be the way to go anyway.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ring?
Thank you. Mr. Bellish, the 375 or 395, can you break that down for me? I know that includes some type of premium, right, or fee included in that.
That's everything.
Yeah, well,
Took that
Not
out.
sure what you mean.
We took that premium out.
okay, I'm just wondering because the natural gas futures are nowhere near that right now. They're much lower. So I'm trying to understand where that's coming from. I mean, the only natural gas future that's close to that is January right now, and that closed Friday at 372.
So 372.
Which was just January. All the rest of them are 250, 240.
And January is the biggest use month, so it's the most important month.
Yeah.
So then you take the BTU conversion factor. So what you're seeing there is in decatherms. You need to convert to 1,000 cubic feet. So there's a factor there. That's 5 to 7%. And then there's the adder, transportation adder, the supplier's adder.
I think that's what I was talking about.
And that's usually like 40 cents.
Right.
So that's probably the cost that you're missing there.
So that's my point. You've got 40 cents in there. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so Henry Hub, Louisiana, that's that NYMEX that you're looking at. That's just a quote right at Henry Hub, Louisiana.
Understood.
So we're 1,200 miles away. So that's the 40 cents to get it here.
Mr. Mayor?
I think there's some confusion and it needs to be straightened out, okay? Mary Ann and I had a conversation today. The price that we get from Tom is from a company that will service the whole community, okay? There is absolutely no doubt that if someone picks up and they go to the apples to apples thing on the website, that they can find a lower price than what we offer, okay? At the same time, they have to look at what the adders are on that. Is there a cancellation fee? Normally, when they go out by themselves, there is. Okay. Is it a variable rate? A lot of times it is, and it fluctuates monthly. when we go for the aggregate program, we look for a company that will represent the entire city. We're not going to say, and we never have said, except for 1 year, 2 years, we were actually the lowest around because of the way, when we locked in, it was at a very, very good time. But we're not going to say that we are the lowest. But what we can offer is we can offer a stable price, okay, for 12 or 24 months. And you can also, if you choose to, if an individual chooses to, they can opt out of the program at any time and find their own supplier. But then they're at their own risk. And I think that's important for people to know. We're not guaranteeing you're going to be the lowest price. What we are going to guarantee is that you'll have a stable price for either 12 or 24 months.
Yeah, my concern is I just want to make sure that we're getting a good stable price, because if the natural price over a 20-month period or 12-month period averages $275 and the consumer, we're locking the consumer in at $375, that's a 30% increase from what they could be paying, and if they can get the $275 somewhere else, like you said, we're not guaranteeing we're the lowest. Why can't we get it? That's my question.
Because not every company offers that lowest price.
Sure.
Okay. There are only certain companies that will bulk up, and we got, what do we have? 4,000 customers here.
Right.
Okay. There's not a lot of.
Have we bid out other companies aside from Eastern? Have we asked other companies what they would do?
Yes. So
they were.
Yeah, this was the lowest.
I mean, Tom, can you explain kind of how the process goes on your end to us? Like, how many different providers are there? How many are you dealing with? This is the one, I guess, that's got the best price for us. I guess, could you explain that a little bit to us?
Yeah, sure. So we'll send out a request for proposal to everyone who's doing aggregation. Now, we can bid it out and get the lowest price, a price like you might see, but it's the terms and conditions that make it unsatisfactory. So you can go out and get one of those low prices, but it's either 6 months or 12 months, and then it rolls to a variable. If we allow it to roll to a variable and then never do anything else, you can get that low rate. That's where they're making up their money. They're making it on the 13th month. They're raising it to like $8, $9 immediately. So that's how they're willing to, for a new customer, get a slightly lower rate. Yeah. But as we continue the program, we can get fixed price year after year. We can have a fixed price, and I think that's what most residents are looking for.
And that's what we've done over the last number of years. And I'm not saying this is a bad price from opposed to it. I just am playing devil's advocate, because I watch the futures and I know they're a lot lower, but I know there are add-ons. So that's where I was getting to.
Yeah, there are a couple of things to add on, certainly.
A couple contractors when we really lucked out, and I think what was it, 229 or 248, something like that. It was outrageously low, and we were able to lock it in.
Yeah.
And almost immediately, after we locked it in, the price started skyrocketing, and we were lucky to get in. But now we're in more of a fluctuating market, and
375 is not a bad rate.
No,
that's not what I'm saying. Because if you look just 25 or 26 months out, you're starting to see 450s as opposed to the 250s that are shown here. So if we could, I prefer lock out longer than 12 months. However, I agree with the new company. We don't know how that might go. So I prefer 24 or 36 months if we can get a nice stable rate, but
you'd be hard pressed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know.
But we the second lowest bid was 385. Getting back to your question, so we see some in the low fours. But that's really, we've only saw 2 suppliers in the 3s for 1 year, 2 year. Everybody else was in the 4s. So, the market is fluctuating, though. We don't bid it out every day. Once we've kind of honed in, we've just been looking at Eastern's prices. But this was back in probably February. We probably started this process. And
was 385 the 24-month rate?
Which one?
Was 385 the 24-month rate?
At one time.
Oh, it isn't now?
24 is 395 as of today. Yeah, and it's not just the market, it's pipeline capacity too is an issue. So that's assigned in April, and we're starting here in October. It's just more expensive for them to do it. So I think we'll get better rates next year.
All right.
With it.
So you're advising us to do the 12 months and it's at 375 because you think we're going to have better rates than 395 next year?
Yeah, we'll have 12 months to strike at that rate or lower, and then we'll just have the lower rates rather than 395, 375. It's my experience, customers are looking at lowest price they can get and not just long term.
Right. No, that's actually what gets brought up on Facebook. I've got a better rate. Here's what it is. I'm switching out. And then people are welcome to switch out, just like the mayor said. That's totally fine. If they don't want the rate that we have, then they can go do their own contract and do whatever they want. Some people, they like to switch all the time. Here's a good rate. Oh, let me use a better rate. Me personally, I'm not looking for all that. I'm not looking to have my gas thing on my calendar like on a monthly basis to see if I can get a better rate somewhere else. But some people do that, and that's fine.
Right.
Just to be clear, I have no stake in this game. I'm locked into a lifetime.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, man.
Wait, you have a lifetime rate?
No.
Oh.
Locked into a lifetime supplier.
Yeah. So no, I thank you for your work on this. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's all I had. I just wanted to play a little.
Any more questions for Mr. Bellish? Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
All right. Item C, T7.
I'll make a motion to move T7625 to tonight's full council.
Yes.
Second.
Motion and a second to move to tonight's full council. All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, this will go to tonight's full council. Now we can go to item C, T7626, contracts for construction and maintenance garage addition. Mr. Rufo.
Good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Sal Rufo, Parks and Recs crew leader. I'm here filling in for Mr. Meidinger, who couldn't be here tonight because he's out on a family vacation. I guess I'm looking for your approval for the contracts for our service garage expansion. We're currently running out of room, and this would help in storing all of the city equipment and stuff that we have that's currently sitting outside in the weather.
Story.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. We had already anticipated these funds, right?
Yeah, so we anticipated about 40,000 of it, and then talking with the mayor, Mr. Meidinger, he needed some additional funds, and we directed him to use the 403 fund if he needed that additional 25.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, question.
Mr.
What work is the city doing after, because this company's going to build a pole barn?
Yes, the company was, I believe it was right around 37,000. They're going to come in and put up the actual structure, attaching it to our garage, along with the doors, windows, roofing, and all that stuff. With the help of a lot of the talented personnel in the service department, we will be doing the concrete work in-house. Obviously, we need the money for the materials and supplies. And then during this winter, we will be doing the interior construction, the finishing of it, creating for our Parks Department a break room / office area, along with another garage area for equipment. Currently, most of our garage personnel, we sit amongst our equipment and all the critters that live in there for our lunches and so forth. So by doing this, it'll also give us a little office space and a lunch room, along with the extra garage space for equipment.
Is that all the work you're doing over the winter time? Is that all included in the?
That's included. That was the additional funds in here over the contractor's price. That's for the electrical drywall, ceiling, all that kind of stuff.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rufo, will this be a heated area?
Will be heated.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. If there's no more questions, I'd entertain a motion to
So moved.
tonight's full council.
Second.
Motion and a second to go to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, so go to tonight's full council. Item D, P7627 purchase memorial benches. Mr. Rufo.
Once again, I think our bench program is taking off. We're getting a lot of people who want to purchase benches or have their donation towards the benches. I guess we've reached a max with our supplier through the city council, so we just need you guys to approve us to purchase more from the same vendor. So we're trying to keep all the benches uniform in the city.
Any questions for Mr. Rufo on this?
Are these going at City Park?
They would go throughout all the parks. We're trying to keep everything uniform throughout the parks.
Ms. Glenn?
Thank you. So which park are these two new ones going in? Do you know?
Yes, I believe these two are going with the that new arch. I forgot what they're called.
Locks of Love.
Locks of Love.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So
There's
City Park. It's going to City
It's going to
Park.
go to City
Okay.
Park. These two.
Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Motion and a second to move this to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, this will go to tonight's full council. Item E, T7630, temporary moratorium on solar electric generation facilities. Mr. Chesnowski.
Thank you. What you have before you is an ordinance for consideration that would place a temporary moratorium on the issuance of permits for solar electric generation facilities. The ordinance was recommended for approval by Planning Commission at their June 11th meeting. It is my understanding, talking with Paul, that the state preempts anything larger than 50 megawatts in size. So this ordinance would deal with anything that the city has purview in regulating, which is 0 to 50 megawatts. Like most moratoriums, this is intended to allow us time to put together a comprehensive ordinance and set of regulations for council to consider moving forward.
Thank you. Mr. Ring.
Thank you, Mr. Lombardo. I find conflicting data in here, or not data, but statements. The first paragraph outside of the title, whereas this council finds that continued unrestrained development of certain commercial uses in the absence of updated commercial development policies is not in the best interest of the city. And then below, the ordinance actually states no building permits, plan approvals will be used or issued to homeowners. That's not a commercial use. That'd be a personal use. So as a council, how can we find that it's unrestrained commercial uses?
So I didn't draft the ordinance. I don't do the whereas statements, but you're correct. I mean, this is intended to apply to both homeowner installations and larger. Again, understanding that we can only regulate 0 to 50 megawatts. I can't speak to the first whereas statement that you brought up, or the verbiage associated therewith.
Mr. Dot, I find that to be in conflict.
The first whereas clause.
Yeah, should that not read, this council finds that the continued unrestrained development of solar electric generation facilities as opposed to certain commercial uses?
I would amend it if I were you. if that's how you feel about it.
I just feel conflicted because this statement is a statement from us saying we find that the continued unrestrained development of certain commercial uses in the absence, but then we go ahead and moratorium on personal uses. And I don't know if someone could challenge that in the ordinance saying, hey, council finds. So if we want to put this on for everything right now until we can get some regulations into place, how would we reword that? I guess what would your advice be to reword that first? Would it just be the finds that continued unrestrained development of solar electric generation facilities in the absence?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to amend the ordinance to remove development of certain commercial uses, remove those 4 words, and to say the unrestrained development of solar electric generation facilities.
I have a second.
Second.
A motion and a second to amend as Mr. Ring has stated. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that'll be amended. Thank you, Mr. Ring.
Thank you.
Any more questions, Mr. Hannon?
Mr. Chiskowski, you and I had a conversation before the meeting. Not interested in having this a moratorium for residents to put this on their house. I think if residents want to take advantage of solar, I think that's a good idea. I know I've seen multiple houses that have solar panels on them. And then, we talked obviously about maybe limiting how many, design standards, stuff like that. But I'm more concerned about someone coming in, buying a big piece of land, putting a bunch of solar panels on it. But if someone wants to use it in their house to cut their electric bill or whatever, then I think that's perfectly fine.
That's a policy decision ultimately that council can make. Keep in mind, this is a draft ordinance, and because we don't have any regulations that apply to either the homeowner of individual dwelling scale or anything larger than up to what we can regulate, I felt it made most sense to add homeowners into the moratorium.
Yeah.
How do we differentiate the two? Like you said, if someone buys a private piece of property, puts up 50 solar panels as a solar farm, but it's a residential property, there's nothing in the regulations say they can't, as opposed to a resident who puts 20 on their roof. How do you differentiate between the two? We'd have to have regulations to do that. Mm-hmm. Right now, we don't. Right. So how do you take out residential and not have it?
Someone be able to put a solar farm? How do we allow it now? If someone comes to the city and solar panels on my house, if
they want to put it on their house, they have to get building permits, the electrical permits. I don't know exactly all the building permits that are required for them. But I've essentially been telling them if it's a roof mounted situation, they have to get building permits. We have not been stopping people from putting them up. I want to say there's probably been a handful of applications. I don't know exactly how many requests for roof-mounted solar arrays. I've seen them done well, and I've seen them not look so good. Right. I think I'm more focused on giving us the ability to properly study it and put regulations before council, understanding that, again, I'm all for sustainability, and I'm not going to stop somebody from putting them on their house. But at the same time, I don't feel real comfortable allowing a homeowner to do it with the lack of regulations we have in place in the code.
So is your recommendation to put the moratorium in so then that way we can get those regulations in place?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Mr. Chesnowski, how long do you think that this will go on for before you can get everything situated? How much time do you think you need?
I like the fact that the moratorium is set for a period of 1 year. That gives us the time to study it and then get it through planning commission, the 3 reads of council, the 30-day public hearing, and the 30 days to become effective. So yes, it's a year, but it's amazing how quickly that year passes when you get the regulations drafted and then it goes to the planning commission. If they want to tinker around with it, we go back and forth with some iterations there. Then it comes to council. You want to take into account the 30 days, for the public hearing, and then 30 days to become effective before the moratorium lapses.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McDaniel?
Thank you, Mr. Lombardo. I agree with Mr. Hannan. I would like to see a change in here, and maybe it can specify personal use, so you don't have someone setting up a solar farm on their personal property. But I think on personal property, if someone wants to put out solar for personal use, there are even tax incentives, and I don't think we should bar people from doing that. I think we should be concerned about outside solar generation companies coming in, and typically they rent land, coming in out in my corner, renting a big field, setting up shop for 20 years, then everything is ruined as far as having arable land after that period because they leave their junk. It's a whole thing. But I would like to see something changed here as we work through this process to not impede personal solar. I can see, Mr. Ring said, well, we don't want people setting up shop on their land. Okay, so we're not going to set up commercial. We're not going to produce solar as a business. But if someone wants to do it, I'd like to see that provided for.
Ms. Glenn?
Okay, but right now we have no setbacks whatsoever. If someone wants to put these in their yard, Mr. Chiskowski, we have nothing that says they can't put them right on the property line? Is that correct?
We've had conversations with some property owners, primarily in the rural residential district, that were interested in the possibility of putting these on the ground. Mm-hmm. In that case, in the absence of regulations that specifically address solar arrays, we have utilized the same regulations that we do for sheds. So a detached accessory structure.
So what's that, 12 feet?
12 feet in the OC, no, I think it's 10 feet in OC and RR and 5 feet in R1 and in all the other residential districts, and required to be in the rear yard.
Does the regulation that also requires them to have a certain percentage of the yard unmolested or usable space still apply? Like, I know it's the structures you can't.
And this is where we get into issues. This is why I would like to have something that's solar array specific rather than trying to square peg round hole it with.
Can we just write in rooftop units, or like?
To me, that would be the best way to do it.
Excluding rooftops.
Rooftop or personal use.
What roof? Their house roof or their barn roof?
It doesn't matter to me.
Shed roof?
I mean, any structure that's existing has already gone through the proper setbacks and such, correct? So if there's a structure that someone would want to put these on the roof, then that should be okay as far as.
And we could clarify residential roof.
Right.
Like, so commercial buildings aren't. Right.
Mr. Mayor.
Who's going to ensure the integrity of the roof, that it can support it? If we allow it and someone puts an array up there, okay, who's going to ensure the integrity of the roof? We have no way of making them. I don't see an issue. We have nobody right now that is even talking about putting a solar array on their roof or in their yard. Okay, so we strike while iron's hot. Like John said, we've got a year to do this. The last 2 or 3 months of it is going to be spent with planning commission and with you folks. If someone wants to put solar panels up in that time, and there are tax incentives available to them, those tax incentives are still going to be there. This is where we get into trouble, you guys, is when we try to do something, okay, and we try to do the right thing, and someone is going to come to us, or someone could come to us and say, well, you don't have any regulations, so you can't tell me where I'm going to put this. I'm going to put this on my neighbor's roof. And I don't see what the issue is in putting the 1-year moratorium until we can properly look at this and create the regulations as a city that we are allowed to do to make sure that these things get taken care of. we start excluding things here and there, and we're gonna run into the same problem we always run into. You're gonna have a set of rules for these guys and a set of rules for these guys. Like I said, nobody is approaching us about wanting to put these up. So now is the time to do it while we can take and make sure that these guys have the proper time to make sure that we get the regulations done right.
Ms. McDaniel?
Can we not be working on regulations for personal use? And if nobody's coming to us, if somebody comes to us, we'll deal with it, but not prohibit people from doing that on their personal property. If they want to set up a solar panel for their personal use, I do not think we should be saying, nope, not for a year. I can totally see solar farms. We need to get stuff in order for that. I completely agree. But I really do not like saying everybody's going to wait a year till we get the regulations made for you for what you're allowed to do. I do not like that.
Thank you. Ms. Glenn?
Thank you, Mr. Lombardo. I don't know, can we make it the personal use a priority over could we shorten that up, or could we separate it into two parts?
We can look into the personal before we look into the other one. Is that not right, John?
Yeah. We can look at, we can prioritize personal over non-personal applications for solar arrays, or you can exclude it from the moratorium. I mean, again, I'm getting more and more the sense, and we haven't had many of these, but when we do, it's kind of square peg round hole. You've got regulations that are not intended to apply to these, that I think that are reasonable, that we try to administer when we get these applications, but I would feel better if we put a stop on all of it. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not trying to stop somebody from getting their solar array or getting their tax incentive associated with that solar array. But I do think it's time to have some in-depth regulations in place for both the residential and the non-residential scale of application. Ultimately, you guys can decide if you want to take out ground mounted, or, only address ground mounted, or only address principal use on vacant property, or however you guys want to word the moratorium. I understand what you guys are saying. But it's time we dive into it and get some comprehensive regulations on the books.
This goes on for 3 reads, right?
Yes, I'm seeking first read this evening.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any more questions, sir? Your name and address for the record, please.
Paul Yupa, 8749 Seasons Road. Perhaps at council's direction, the planning department could, as you said, prioritize the work for residential areas and maybe even release them from the moratorium earlier than other areas in the city. Is that a possibility? Depending upon the way the code is written, would it be possible to do that?
I don't see why it wouldn't be. I'd like to have them both included in the moratorium, and then if we get residential done before the year is up, if you say that you want that to be the priority, I see no problem with that.
John, if you had regulations drafted and ready tomorrow, it would still take 3 months for it to go through the proper process, right? At least.
Correct.
So we're not going to have regulations in a month for anything. We can't expect that. It's got to go through public hearing. It's got to go to planning commission.
Then makes a recommendation to council.
All of that, and then 30 days after the 3 reads. So it's going to be at least 3 or 4 months, even if you had them today. I agree with Mr. Hannon and Ms. McDaniel. I'm not a fan of first telling people what to do on their private property, especially if it's saving them money and getting them benefits. Sorry, Mr. Yupa, keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's quite all right. It was just a thought for council to move forward with, but it's obviously council's discretion. And if you don't feel that it's that pressing residential, wise, then you move forward with whatever way you wish. I just was looking at a way to accommodate both, right? And have the residential portion of it completed first and released from the moratorium, so that it wouldn't be a full year or maybe beyond that by the time it was all approved. So just a thought, but
thank you.
It's obviously council's discretion.
Thank you. Mr. Chesnowski, when these, so right now, if someone wants to put solar on their residential roof, is it inspected currently? Does it have to go through any type of inspection to make sure that that's, like the mayor was saying, it's not too heavy, it's structurally sound?
I don't know the answer to that question. I know that they are required to get building permits of some sort. I don't know which building permits and what inspections are associated with those permits.
Okay.
I don't want to give you misinformation, so I'm just going to be totally honest with you. I don't know the answer to that question.
All right. Ms. Glenn?
Thank you. So let's just say that the building, say we don't put the moratorium on for the personal, and we go through the building department, say a resident goes through the building department, gets a building permit, sells the house, roof collapses, then what? I mean, if our building department has approved that and we don't have proper regulations as far as, like the mayor is saying, what if it's too heavy for the roof? I don't know if that's any type of legal type of a thing, Mr. Knott?
It would be, yeah, if they're following regulations that lead to that.
I mean, because if we don't have any regulations that are, dictating, but I would like the residential to be a priority, between the two issues.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think there's two issues. There's the vacant land in residentially zoned property that's used for a large array, and then there's a roof mounted on your dwelling or accessory structure.
You guys can always rescind if he gets the regulations, or if they get the regulations written for the residential, they can always rescind that. It's a council decision. They can rescind that part of the moratorium and keep the other part in check. And this, if
that way we're
the
covered.
Moratorium in, it gives him time gives them time to properly look through and make sure that we don't run into these issues.
Okay. Any more discussion? Do we want to make an adjustment to this legislation as far as residential moratorium being less than a year, or?
Well, we would have to include it for the year, and then once the regulations were through the process, we would go in and amend the ordinance. So let's say in December, it gets through the process and the regulations are now in place. It's been all the 30 days and public hearings have happened. We can go in and amend this ordinance to remove the residential criteria from it.
And I have already started talking with Dan D'Agostino, the building director. We would include building related elements in these ordinances so that it covers both sides, the planning and zoning side, as well as the building side of solar generation facilities.
Thank you. Mr. Knott, question for you, and this will probably be how my decision is for this. If we do not put a temporary on this and something does happen, will the city be held liable for not having anything in place?
I don't believe so.
At this time?
Because it's new technology, for example, and we haven't enacted anything. I don't think we're under the gun to enact something concerning this.
Would it be if we had regulations in place and they followed those regulations and something happened, we could be liable? But if sans any regulation, we have no regulation, there's no way we could be liable for just having nothing in place, right?
Because otherwise you'd have to compel government to regulate everything.
Everything, right,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so we need a motion to move this to tonight's full council. As amended. Do we have a motion to move this to tonight's full council as amended?
They're discussing.
I just want to make sure, I'm going to say again, I would like no personal residential use to be in the moratorium at all. Can we make an amendment so that is out? We're just focused on we should be moving forward with getting our regulations in order for that. But during that time, I do not think we should be restricting. Can we amend this?
Would you like to make a motion to amend?
Would like to make a motion to amend to remove or to add accepting personal residential use.
Just straight personal residential use, ground, roof, everything. So like someone could put up 100 solar panels on their residential property for their use.
I guess I'm trying to use some common sense here.
And 5 feet away from the property line? Is that what you said?
I'm
5
trying
feet?
to employ some common sense. Nobody's doing that. Nobody's beating down the door to do this, but I don't want our residents to be restricted at all, should they want to do something, but while we are working on this. It sounds to me like we're working on this. It should be in place within a couple months, but I don't want them under a 12-month moratorium, and then, well, we've got up to 12 months, and so people are sitting waiting. I don't want to do that, so however we can amend.
Chesnowski, how many applications have you had in the last year for this type of residential activity?
Like I said, probably about a handful of them for roof-mounted residential dwelling applications.
None that want to go into the ground or anything?
I've had conversations with individuals that were interested in it and told them that they would be required to meet the siting requirements for a detached accessory structure. And I have, after I've had those, and I've had maybe 2 conversations with property owners about the ground-mounted arrays. After those conversations, I never received any formal application.
Okay.
I would suggest that I don't know exactly that we can pin down the verbiage here this evening. Maybe Paul and David can discuss it, but it's more, roof mounted to an existing structure or something along those lines, to an existing residential structure, dwelling or accessory structure. That would at least take out the possibility of somebody moving forward with a large ground-mounted array on residentially zoned property. It sounds like if we were to exempt roof-mounted residential arrays from an existing structure, no harm, no foul. That's it. And if I'm off on that, Ms. McDaniel, let me know. But I feel like that would allow the applications that I think you're envisioning to move forward while still protecting us from the larger vacant residentially zoned land that,
well, I don't know
could be used.
Sorry. I don't know if legal could figure out the proper way to word it, but I am not envisioning anybody slamming a bunch of solar panels on any residentially zoned lot that might be empty, but I'm picturing people with homes who want to put some panels on their yard, on their roof, wherever. I don't know what the proper verbiage is. Personal use, personal dwelling.
We could figure it out.
We could figure that out, but I would like to see something like that if possible.
Yeah, I just worry that Mr. Cheskowski just said he had two residents that are right, that wanted to put land arrays out, and who knows what size they wanted to put out. They could have been 100 panels.
Yeah, I mean, and
they could have been 10. I don't know, but you had the conversations. But we don't know that people aren't trying to do that.
I mean, we did have some conversations from some larger companies, out-of-state companies looking to buy vacant RR zoned property and do exactly.
And that's a concern.
Right.
That's what it needs to be for.
Yeah.
I think we want that, so don't get me wrong. But someone who wants to do on their property for themselves, not a business, not me taking my field and setting up shop and, making my solar and doing that. That's not what I'm talking about. So however legal could figure out to word it, something to hone in a little bit for people to be able to do what they want while we get this figured out and the regulations in place. But definitely moratorium on the bigger concerns that are looking at coming in.
Well, we've got 3 reads to amend it, so.
Right, that's why I was saying if we did the first read today, we could amend it for the second read or, prior to adoption.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's council meeting for first read. Second. As amended.
A motion and a second to move this to tonight's full council as first read as amended. All in favor? Any opposed? I'm hearing none. Item F, T7631, amend code section 1165 site development regulations. Mr. Checa.
Thank you, Mr. Lombardo. This went through the Planning Commission. The long and short of it is we're trying to find a better way to hold home builders liable to complete the full site before they walk away. They have been getting crafty and using the homeowner to put down cash deposits to do this. So we're hoping that by putting a bond in the home builder's name, we will be able to complete the sites instead of having them walk away. So that's the long and short of it.
Go ahead, Mr. Ring.
Do I not recall a few years ago after the development on Frost debacle that we put some regulations into place that required them to hold bond through final inspection and all of that stuff?
For a private property, was
do a final inspection, the topo in the end.
Yeah, we put it in where they had to hold their surety bond until they re-released final inspection of the property. So
that may have been a catalyst to this whole ordinance. Before that, we didn't have anything really to hold them. So we went with a cash deposit at that time because that's what I had experience with. And we would like to move into this realm of using an actual bond from a surety to make sure that it gets done.
I swear we already did that, though. I swear we wouldn't release the surety. We wouldn't sign off on the release until, and our ordinance, we changed it until it was final grade or final inspection of whatever it was.
You're remembering correctly, but the monetary guarantee was a cash bond. So we did a cash bond. Now for development projects, for larger development projects, it is a surety bond. But when we did this ordinance,
it was just a cash bond.
It's always been a cash bond. Yeah.
So you were moving it to a surety bond?
Correct.
Okay.
The issue is that the builders are putting it on the homeowners when it should be a builder issue.
Yeah.
Start to finish.
We're chasing homeowners to finish their final grades, their driveways, and now we're having them sign releases because we can't get the builders to final properties. This may work, it might not. We might need to figure out another means to do this. But I called Aurora, and we had the same problems back then, and they're moving to a bond too now that we're doing it. So.
I think this is a great idea because, as you remember, the development on Frost was somewhat similar, and it took 2.5 or 3 years, I believe.
Okay, now I know what you're talking about. So that was for a full development subdivision. Okay, yeah, that we have changed that. This is for individual site properties. So
infill.
Yeah, just regular lots. It's not for the development itself. We have corrected that. Yeah.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Checkeye?
There's no further questions. Make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second. Motion and a second to move this to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. This will go to tonight's full council. Item G, T7628, professional legal services for law and economic development. Mr. O'Malia.
Thank you. This ordinance will allow the law department and I to hire a law firm with expertise in tax increment financing. Squire, Patton, and Boggs were chosen not only for their technical expertise, but also because they were significantly lower than the other firms that we spoke with. We have a proposal for a TIF for the upcoming development on State Route 14 that council's already tactically agreed to, but we'd prefer to have a second set of eyes on any contracts before they go to the school board for final approval. This ordinance also allows us the flexibility in looking at some various other TIF structures as well.
Thank you, Mr. O'Malia. Any questions for Mr. O'Malia? Okay.
It's just more of a statement than a question, but in reading their engagement letter,
Yes.
it's a little unimpressive, typo-wise. It's not your fault. But if they're the ones reviewing our contracts and we want to be sure that we're solid, I want to make sure we're hiring someone we can be really confident in because our city's spelled wrong. If reimbursement's spelled wrong. It bugs me, and I know it might be silly, but if we were trusting people and paying them extra to do this for us, I hope we can really trust them to do a good job because I don't want to be presenting contracts that, have
Ms. McDaniels, the individual, we said, hey, we need a letter of engagement. We need something to bring to council. And he said, I'm on vacation. And I think he typed that up on his phone. Mrs. McDaniel. Apologies.
Yes, go ahead.
Paul Ube, 8749 Seasons Road. I was wondering if there are any other places in our city, the way the legislation was written, that the city is thinking of making TIF areas that are described other than the one that's under consideration, obviously, now.
That is a consideration.
And what types of infrastructure is the city looking at gaining with these TIFs?
That is something that we need a legal firm to help us make a determination on.
So you're not talking about widening of lanes or sewer or water or?
The primary benefit of something like what is currently under consideration would be, for example, if we chose to do a TIF and we had a roadwork improvement project occurring in advance and we knew that that was coming, instead of us taking money out of the general fund, if that fund was seasoning and we weren't taking it to bond, but instead the cash was just building as it were, that would just be less money removed from the general fund.
One thing I've seen in the past in the city is that TIFs have been used to create turn lanes into shopping centers, which they described as a road widening. But technically, if you think about it, if the retail establishments are the one generating the traffic and the traffic safety situation, maybe they should build the turn lane on their property on their own and not get any type of tax increment financing to do so. It's part of their development. It's part of the problem that they create, and maybe they should fund it.
That is not something that we're currently considering.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Questions? I'll make a motion to move that to tonight's full council.
Second.
Motion and a second to move item G to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm hearing none. Item G will go to tonight's full council. Item H, T7629, authorized trade-ins for sign truck, Mr. Bill Miller.
Our sign truck chassis finally came in, so they came out and gave us prices for the trade-ins that we want to get rid of. One is a 2014 Explorer, 114,000 miles. It's seen its days, so we're done with it. And the other is an 04 Chevy Suburban.
Is that little blue truck?
It used to be the old fire department Suburban.
No, the Excursion, those are big.
Oh, what about that little blue truck that drives around the water department?
That was him. What? Was that your truck for a long time?
No, I had a gold one. Yes. That one's still going.
It's still going. I see it every day.
They use it every day.
All right.
We keep them as long as we can.
Let's see. Yes, Mr. Hand.
What is the sign truck?
We bought a chassis. What it is a 4-door. It's going to carry the barricades and all the sign equipment on it.
Okay. Is that the one where you said if it's like on a main road or something, they would hit that like a car? Would hit that?
No, we get that's the Scorpion trailer. You'll see that used here probably another week on 14. It's a crash trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, with an aero board on it.
Okay.
This is a sign truck specifically for barricades and the work zone safety signs. Like the old Chevy, finally, I think it's an 04. It just totally went dead on us.
That's all I have.
So we got the 4-door just so we can also carry extra guys in there to take less vehicles.
Yeah.
Makes more sense than 2 vehicles, 1 vehicle.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
There's no further discussion. I'll make a motion to move this to tonight's full council.
Second.
Motion and a second to move item H to tonight's full council. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm hearing none. This will go to tonight's full council. 7, citizens' comments. Step on up, sir.
You want to ride in the sign truck, don't you?
I already have. Paul Ube, 8749 Seasons Road. I have a question for our guest, our county auditor tonight, if he'd be so gracious to answer. Since we're having an increase of 30 to 35% in our assessed values across in the county this coming year, I wondered if there's going to be any changes in the way that they address people who contest those. I was recently involved with a property that we have in Summit County, and they had a rather good process in place for contesting. And I know in the past you made an appointment in Portage County. It was one-on-one, and it was didn't seem like it was conducive to maybe the amount of people that they will get when you increase property values by a third. And I wonder if they've looked into methods for handling that or not. Thank you.
Good question. So we have looked into that, and a couple of things that we're doing are, I've talked to our board of revision, who's going to be involved in that, as well as our informal process, and there's going to be some evening hours, some Saturday morning hours, and there's appointments only too, so we're not backed up with lines and somebody doesn't get in by the time they need to get in. So we're going to make it as customer friendly as possible. When you talk about your interaction with whoever you deal with, I own that process, so if there's any issues with that, you can come talk to me and we'll make it right. But the intention is that everybody gets their say on what has come out of this whole process. And I want to make that very easy. I know with our economy around Portage County as a whole, very agriculture, I want to make it easy on the farmers. I want to make it easy on business owners, small business owners, to be able to come in and discuss with the Board of Revision or the informal hearing what their issues are, and to come out of there maybe not liking the information they heard, but they feel that it's accurate and they're confident in what they heard. That's the intention. If that doesn't happen, then I'll intervene and handle that. So,
all right, thank you.
Yep.
8, announcements. A regular council meeting will immediately follow this meeting. 9, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned from service.
Ready?
Which one's doing?
I'd like to call this regular council meeting of Monday, July 8th, 2024 to order. Before I get started with the roll call, Mr. Mishniak texted us earlier. He may be on his way soon, but I have not heard back from him. So we don't have enough people right now for emergency legislation. I was wondering if the council would like to go into our executive session that the mayor asked for at the beginning to burn a little bit of time, or do we want to just send everything to first reading? And I don't know what is, if there's anything pertinent that we need to pass tonight that we can't pass. Mr. Miller.
So there is something pertinent. Our 2025 tax budget, by our Ohio Revised Code, we have to have that approved by July 15th, or I have to go through a process of appealing and asking for extension. I really don't want to go that direction. So I would like to see, and I will stay as long as it takes to get this.
I figured if we go into our executive session, maybe that'll burn some time. Steve didn't text me back, but maybe I can give him a call to see where he's at, see how long it's going to be, and then we can go from there. So, all right, with that, we'll go to number 2, roll call.
Mr. Hannon.
Here.
Mr. Lombardo.
Here.
Ms. Wagner. Mrs. McDaniel. Present. Ms. Glenn.
Here.
Mr. Ring.
Here.
Mr. Mishniak.
I'll entertain a motion to excuse those two.
Second.
So moved.
Wait.
No, just second. Say second.
Yes.
Second.
All right.
Oh, yeah, you made the motion.
Got to entertain the motion.
Yeah, you entertain the motion.
I have a first and second to excuse Ms. Wagner and Mr. Mishniak. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, they are excused. Item 3, disposition of minutes. We have the public hearing of June 24th, 2024 regarding the 2025 tax budget, and the regular council meeting for June 24th, 2024.
Motion to accept as presented?
Second.
A first and a second to accept as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, those are accepted. I'll go ahead and do like a 3B and add an executive session. I'll entertain a motion to.
Why don't we do that after reports communications?
Okay, perfect. Citizens comment, or do you want to wait till the end? Any citizens comments right now? Perfect. Just go ahead and state your name and address for the record.
Okay, Mark Curtis, actually live in Twinsburg, 10472 Woodchuck Court. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Mark Curtis, I'm here to introduce myself. I'm actually running for a state representative, the 35th House District, which includes Streetsboro. So I wanted to come in and introduce myself, and more importantly, kind of understand and learn more about, Streetsboro and the city, and, what's going on here, what your needs are, what your concerns are. I've heard a lot already since I've been sitting here, but, wanted to just kind of let you know that I'm a candidate that's running. I've lived in Twinsburg for a little over 20 years. I've spent the last 10 years serving as on the school board, as well as Cuyahoga Valley Career Center school board. Been in education for nearly 30 years. That's my passion. So this is kind of the next iteration of my experience. So I wanted to make sure that I had a chance to engage you all and understand that, if elected and going down to Columbus, that you got a friend down to Columbus. I want to make sure that, I'm able to do things that are in the best interest of the community, but more importantly, be an ear to listen and understand what your concerns are. Also plan to be present as well. I'm only 20 minutes down the road, so just wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to say hi and introduce myself.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Actually, one of our previous council members, Miss Lodato, she's running for county commissioner. I was just talking to her over the weekend about local candidates, and she spoke highly of you. So it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being here. I plan to stay throughout the meeting and learn more. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other citizens' comments? Ms. Pullman? Nothing? Got nothing back there? All right. We'll go on to item 5, reports, communications from departments, boards, and commissions. Go ahead and start with Chief.
Which chief?
Chief Reinholds.
Thank you.
The Chiefs, I guess. We'll start with the Chiefs.
Sounds like a football team, the Chiefs, huh? Any questions on activity log? Basically, the last 2 weeks of activity we've had. The Walmart's had a safety fair last Saturday, which we attended. Car seat safety, child safety. Woodside had a real nice fireworks demonstration this past Saturday night. Very, very nice. We were there for the fireworks. And one of the hotels is remodeling. So with that, we saw an opportunity to go up there and train. So we've been laying hose and practicing what we call standpipe operations, where we connect into the stairwell vertical standpipe to practice, since we really don't get much practice. So the hotel was kind enough to let us in.
Are they going to remodel their smoke alarm system?
No, they have a lot of work to do at this point. It isn't the one of the hotels you're talking about. It's a different hotel. Yeah. It's a different one. So that's what we've been doing for the past week. And a good story we had over the last 2 weeks, a near drowning of a child. And as it turned out, the child successfully recovered and is back home again. So that was a potential for near tragedy, but it was averted. People on scene started CPR, and we got there and continued the patient care, and it was a positive outcome. And that's what we've been doing. Questions?
Sir. Wow. Thank you. Chief Wayne?
Just to touch on a couple things. If you drive by our PD, they finally started the work on raising the building. They've dug out most of the back side of it. I have no idea what they're doing down there, but it looks efficient and professional. So Bill has kindly been stopping by to keep an eye on it. So hopefully that will prevent any future damage. We had one of our sergeants graduated from an advanced supervisory school, Sergeant Sedlecki. Sergeant Graham will be the next one going to that. It's called PELC, it's Police Executive Leadership, and it's the last one in line before going to the National Academy, which is a 10-week program for senior leadership of the departments. Sergeant Sedlecki is in line for that. He's already applied. It's generally about a 2 to 3 year wait for officers, but we're definitely looking forward to getting him to that. Out of the department, there's only been 3 of us that have gone to that class. It's international, and there's usually about 200 in the classes down at Quantico in Virginia, so it's pretty impressive feat that we'll be able to get him into it. Additionally, Chief Reinholdt spoke about the drowning. I've brought it up at our staff meeting this morning with law and with the mayor. I will be putting in, I've already started the process for life-saving awards. We actually had 2 Good Samaritans at the scene that worked on bringing her back, and then Officer Martinez assisted towards the end, and the little girl started taking breaths right before that. Unfortunately, at the time of the incident, we knew about the female that had been doing CPR because she was the one working on her when Officer Martinez arrived, but we did not know about the juvenile male that also jumped in and was really, I think, all 3, I think they were very instrumental in getting her back, and she has been laughing and playing and talking as if there was no issue at all. And I do have to say, she was underwater for 4.5 minutes. So you know, I've seen the video. It's not something that we're gonna put out there. It's hard to watch. If you have kids, it will break your heart, but it's pretty amazing. She is without deficit. So I'm extremely proud of Officer Martinez, and I really hope that we're going to be able to track down that other juvenile who jumped in. It's a scary thing, and for those of you that don't know, drowning is quiet. She slipped underwater and there were people around. There were people right by her and they never even noticed. It's not loud, it's not noisy, it's not splashy like you see on TV. So if you know anybody that has pools, if you have kids that are in pools, please don't think that you're going to hear them as they're going underwater, because people don't. Her family was around, there were other kids in the pool, and nobody noticed because it was just that quiet when she went under. So please keep an eye on family, friends, anybody when you're in a pool. And
I don't know if the Streetsboro Police Department put it out, but I saw it somewhere on social media, but there was like an informative post with, it was like a color scheme of water between like the difference between a pool and a lake. So if you have kids and they're in a pool, like certain colors stick out better in clear water versus like a lake water, which I thought was pretty interesting because I never thought about, you know, the color of my swim trunks.
yeah, I think Kent City actually put that out, and it was kind of just odd timing that it was right there. Yeah, it's if you don't know and never think about it, and all you see is drownings on TV, you think they are super splashy and crazy, and it's just not. So I'll have to see if I can find that post again, and I'm gonna put it up on ours because it is a
stuck out between
and some colors just you can't see them in others, and you know people can slip under pretty easy. So that is all I have. Fingers crossed we can identify that other juvenile, and if we can, hopefully we'll be back in 2 weeks to do the presentation.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Rufo, how's things in the park?
Beautiful.
Everybody, I just want to take a minute. Obviously, you're not at these meetings all the time, but we always give praise how the parks look. We always get compliments from how
Appreciate it.
Thank you to you and your crew for keeping our parks the way they are.
Try our best. But no, everything's going good. Everybody's getting their feet wet with the new building. We had our first wedding. It was a success. They were really happy with everything we had to offer there. The senior center, the seniors are fitting right in. This week, unfortunately, we lost 2 of our long-term seniors. They would be coming to the senior center, Sang and Lucy. I don't know their last names, but we lost them, unfortunately. Mike Coos has been working diligently on the barbecue bash, which is coming up in a at the middle of August. That is looking like it's going to be a pretty big event for the city. We've got that locks arch that'll be going in pretty soon. Baseball's wrapping up. We did have like 7 or 8 big tournaments, brought in a lot of people from out of town, which brought business to our local restaurants and shopping centers. Baseball is wrapping up. It's going to give us some more time to focus on some projects. We did go over to Floyd North and began clearing the properties over there. A lot of invasive species, vines, stuff that's taking over the land. So we started clearing all that out for the contract company to come in and start fixing that place up. Besides that, everything else is going okay that I know of.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Rufo.
Yep.
We already started on this side. You finished this. Pat, got anything for us?
I sent everyone a departmental update on Friday. There has been no new activity since Monday.
Anybody else? Mr. Checker.
City Center is coming along. The bathroom is, 80% complete. Splash pad plumbing is about 50% complete. So we're waiting on some equipment to come in and hopefully finish that project up. Obviously, update on City Hall next meeting. Paving started, so Page, Element, and Bartlett. We'll see activity out there on both of those projects. And then I did find out today that First Energy is doing a pretty big project along their easement, which runs Ravenna Road up to 303 and through Stonegate. So there will be activity going through there. There's going to be traffic down Sapphire, but I did tell them, hey, we just repaved that, so protect the road. There's the work there is fairly minimal, but it's a very big project. So it's going to be going from July to December. They're going to be removing structures, adding structures, putting new guy wires in. So if you folks get calls, that's what's going on with that. And I gave the mayor some information. I'm sure he'll put it out on social media. So that's all.
Or if they need a place to put any equipment, we'll just put it in Mr. Mishniak's front yard.
Sure.
Julie's neighborhood.
Julie's neighborhood.
Yeah.
There you go. I'll let you guys work that out, okay? That's all I got.
Anything else? Mr. Miller?
Just a quick note, and this is on behalf of state auditors. They did send a fraud questionnaire to every member of council, so you'll want to check your city emails and fill that out for the state. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Mishniak, which, for the record, he's back in our meeting for our...
Just in time for emergency legislation. All right. Item 6.
Before we do that, though, 2 things. I want to make a motion to add an executive session to discuss pending litigation at the end of the meeting, prior to announcements.
First, is there a second? Roll call, please.
To add it?
Just to add it?
Okay. This is Mr. Ring.
Yes.
Ms. Glenn.
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel. Yes. Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Mishniak.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules of 3 readings for items T7624, T7625, T7626, T7627, T7628, and T7629.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ring.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. Glenn.
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel. Yes. Mr. Mishniak.
Yes. All right. Beginning with T7624, approved 2025 tax budget. Clerk, read by title.
An ordinance adopting a tax budget for the city of Streetsboro for fiscal year 2025 and declaring an emergency to meet the Portage County Budget Commission submission deadline.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
First and a second to adopt the legislation. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ring.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. Glenn.
Yes.
Mr. Hannon.
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel. Yes. Mr. Mishniak.
Yes. T7624 passes and now becomes ordinance number 2024-97.
T7625, contract with Eastern Power Gas for natural gas aggregation. Read by title.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with the selected supplier to supply natural gas to eligible consumers within the city of Streetsboro pursuant to the city's opt-out natural gas aggregation program at a cost not to exceed 3.75 MCF for a period of 24 months, and if that rate's not available, 3.75 MCF for 12 months, and declaring an emergency in order to expedite the contract.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
First and a second to adopt the legislation. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Ms. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Mishniak?
Yes, T7625 passes and now becomes ordinance number 2024-9898. T7626, contract for construction of maintenance garage addition. Read by title, please.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into contracts without competitive bidding with MAS Construction and various other vendors for the construction of a pole barn for use by the Parks and Recreation Department in an amount not to exceed $65,000 and declaring an emergency in order to allow construction to immediately progress.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Adopt.
First and a second to adopt. Roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Okay. And then Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel? Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Mishniak?
Yes. T7626 passes and now becomes ordinance number 2024-9999. T7627, purchase memorial benches. Read by title.
The ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with DWA Recreation to purchase 2 memorial benches for use by the Parks and Recreation Department for an amount not to exceed $2,825 and declaring an emergency to expedite the purchase.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a first and a second to adopt the legislation. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Mishniak?
Yes. T7627 passes and now becomes ordinance number 2024-100. T7628, professional legal services for the Law and Economic Development Departments. Read by title, please.
Before I do, I need to mention that there was a typo on the original that you have in your hand, section 2, account number. Should be 101-445338 instead of what it
Need a
says.
motion to amend said.
Make that motion.
First and a second to accept the correction. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. That correction is made. Right now, read.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract for professional service with Squire Patton Boggs to assist the Department of Law and Department of Economic Development in establishing tax increment financing areas in the city of Streetsboro in an amount not to exceed $12,500 and declaring an emergency in order to ensure immediate legal assistance.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
First and a second to adopt the legislation. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel? Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mr. Mishniak?
Yes. T7628 passes and now becomes ordinance number 2024-101. T7629, authorized trade-ins for sign truck. Read by title, please.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract for the trade-in of 2 used city vehicles as part of a purchase contract with Liberty Ford Aurora for a heavy-duty Ford 450 chassis for use by the service department as a sign truck, as authorized by ordinance number 2023-135, and declaring an emergency in order to expedite the purchase of the truck.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
First and a second to adopt the legislation. Roll call, please.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Hannan?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Mishniak?
Yes. T7629 passes and now becomes ordinance number 2024-102. Next item on the agenda is item 7, items up for first reading. T7630, temporary moratorium on solar electric generation facilities. Read by title, please.
Okay, this was amended in committee. This is an ordinance placing a temporary moratorium on the issuance of planning, zoning, and building permits, approvals, and certificates related to solar electric generation facilities.
Next item is T7631, amend code sections 1165, site development regulations. Read by title, please.
This is an ordinance amending Chapter 1165 of Title 5, Part 11, Planning and Zoning Code of the codified ordinances to guarantee the performance of a builder through the requirement of a surety fund.
Items for second read, there are none. Items for third reading, there are none. Item 10 is the mayor's report. Mr. Mayor, you have the floor.
I'm good.
President of Council's comments. I apologize for not being here on time, but I got called to my other job. So that was, try to get done quick, but sometimes those things take a little longer than you think. I did get some sad news while I was there, besides the sad news of what happened, was a gentleman that I've known professionally and through my work for a long time, and he did a lot of work for the city over the years. I heard over the radio, there's a squad called his house, and he passed away. Some of you I know worked with Dave Benjamin, but Dave just passed away about an hour and a half ago at his home. So they worked on him, but couldn't bring him back. Yeah, Ann was there with him, so they responded to his house. But he did a lot of work for us. He did some labor negotiations, collective bargaining, filled in for us over the years. But Dave was ever since I was a young intern years ago, 25 years ago, just always a really nice guy. Very knowledgeable about local government, city government, always willing to talk to you about issues, and kind of a political junkie, which, as we kind of all are being council people, we wouldn't have ran if we didn't. But just a good guy, and he'll be missed. But that just happened. It looks like he just had some sort of medical event at home and didn't survive it. So just kind of wanted to share that with you and give Dave kind of a tip of the hat there. All right, council members' comments. Let's start with Mr. Ray.
I have none, thank you.
Great, Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Mishniak. I'd like to thank the police department and the bystanders and the fire department for their hard work with the girl that was in the pool. We don't appreciate the services until we need them. And then when we need them, we appreciate them. So thank you for the hard work, and let the officers know that we really do appreciate it, and let the shift know too at the firehouse that we do appreciate what they do. Thank you.
Ms. McDaniel.
Just want to say I'm looking forward to the Do It for James Foundation Walk Run Day of Fun. That'll be a week from this upcoming Saturday. I recently got to spend some time with Mrs. Woods and got to speak with her and hear more of the story. And so I'm looking forward to this event. I've been running, and this is a great cause to support. So anyone that's not signed up to participate, it's not too late. Next Saturday, you can come run with me and support a good cause.
Good, thank you. Mr. Hannon.
I just wanted to remind everybody I won't be here at the next meeting. I'll be out of town for military leave, but I'll be back, should be back for the 29th for the work session that we scheduled. That's all I have.
You got anything to close us out? Well, actually, we have an executive session.
No, nothing for tonight.
All right. I believe, is that where we're going to squeeze? I can do announcements, then we'll do the executive session. Announcements are Streetsboro Family Days is scheduled for July
We're doing it. He's doing it. He's doing announcements for
26-20 through the 28th, 2024 at City Park, and there will be a special service committee meeting, a finance committee meeting, a regular council meeting on Monday, July 22nd, 2024, starting at council chambers. I will need a motion to recess into executive session for discussion of pending litigation.
So moved.
First and a second, roll call, please.
Mr. Hannon?
Yes.
Mrs. McDaniel? Yes. Mr. Ring?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Mishniak?
Yes, we are in executive session.
Folks are good. We'll see you in the morning. Are you gonna take a minute or what? Yep.